We know you love their clothes, but guess what? Gap just announced their first ever home line sold exclusively at Walmart. Gap Home offers super soft bedding, luxe bath essentials, elevated tableware, and more inspired finds for daily life. Gap is committed to doing good for the planet, and that starts at home. From bedding to bath, Gap Home includes items made with organic cotton and recycled materials. Everything is made with the planet in mind. You could shop at walmart.com/Gap Home.
What up? It's Dramos. You may know me from the recap on LATV. Now I've got my own podcast, Life as a Gringo, coming to you every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be talking real and unapologetic about all things life, Latin culture, and everything in between from someone who's never quite fit in. Listen to Life as a Gringo on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
While I'm talking to you, the workout app on Apple Watch is tracking my running workout. A sensor is checking how fast my heart is beating. Algorithms are counting how many calories I'm burning. And a GPS is pinging a satellite in space to see how far I've gone. And all I have to do is run. Apple Watch, the future of health is on your wrist. iPhone 6S or later required.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
What's happening? Welcome in. My name is Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. I'm with you for the next 4 hours. Looking forward to it. It's Saturday where I am. It's going to be Saturday where you are awfully quick if it's not already. Football, less than a month away. Fake football. We've already got a game in the books. A lot to talk about on this program. Congrats to Team USA on the gold. Congrats on doing what you should have done. Sliding past France. Congrats to Kevin Durant. We'll definitely be talking about that. I think we have to talk about Josh Allen getting the bag first. I am, again, Jason Martin. I'm on Twitter at JMartRadio. You can find me there. The telephone number to reach us is 877-99 on Fox, 996-6369. Chris Perfett, Brian Finley, Nick Battaglia, my crew. They're the trifecta spinning the Dallas radio style for me this morning. We'll hear from them plenty during the course of the next 4 hours as we take this journey together. Josh Allen gets paid $258 million, $150 guaranteed, which is the most guaranteed money in a single contract in NFL history. Mahomes, his deal had $141.5 guaranteed. This is $43 million in average annual value, which does place second to Patrick Mahomes at $45. This locks up Josh Allen for quite some time, a new 6-year deal. And now it's gotten expensive, and this is what happens. When you're in the NFL, what you pine for, what you hope for most is to strike it rich with a quarterback in the draft and then do everything you can to maximize that window before he then has to strike it rich towards the end of that rookie contract. And we had heard either yesterday or the day before the deal was made that Allen's representatives and the team, look, if we can't get it done before the season, we'll work on it after the year. They weren't going to do it in the middle of the season. And then you find out Friday fairly early that indeed Josh Allen did get that bag. So now what? Well, first off, I think this is instructive again as to why opinions, well, we know what opinions are. We all know the phrase. I won't say it here on Fox Sports Radio, but you can look it up. But everybody has one. A whole lot of people got a whole lot of stuff wrong about Josh Allen. I'm old enough to remember when he was a bust. I'm old enough to remember that nobody cared about Wyoming Cowboys football. I'm old enough to remember that he couldn't throw accurately 5 yards down the field. I was old enough to remember people screeching on television and saying the Bills were the dumbest team in the world when they drafted Josh Allen. And then they just paid him $150 million of a $258 million mega contract guaranteed yesterday. So it's time to take that L. If you were one of those that believed it to be an awful decision by the Buffalo Bills to draft Josh Allen in the first place, I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I certainly didn't think, I understood why you were taking the guy. I also, in the first 2 years of his career, thought, okay, well, there's some highs here, but there are some definite lows here. What happened last year is that the Buffalo Bills went and gave Josh Allen his killer app. Think about the PlayStation 5. You're starting to see them now. They're still not, you're not finding them in stores too often just yet, but that's about to change. And it's because now the PlayStation 5 has games that Sony actually would like people to be able to play. I've believed this from the beginning. Yes, the pandemic had a large effect on the number of consoles being produced, but this shortage worked in Sony's favor. I was lucky enough to grab a PlayStation 5 launch day last year. And what's happened since is most of the games that were released for it were souped up versions of PlayStation 4 games. They didn't really show the power of this new system. They didn't show what it was capable of. You knew it was capable of more, but they didn't want you to start to ask questions and then find out the truth, which is the Xbox, the new Xbox, is actually the stronger console. When you look at the nuts and bolts on the inside, what it can do graphically, all of that. It was built to be an ultimate gaming machine. The PlayStation 5 might be marketed that way, but it didn't have quite the same hardware. So you needed games that really were able to take advantage of it and show it in its best light. And they didn't have those. Now they're starting to. Games that came out in the summer, ones that are about to come out, certainly Madden's about to come out. Now Sony wants it in people's hands because it has its killer app. The Xbox didn't really matter until Halo. That you can go back through time. Systems took off when the right game came out for it. PlayStation 5 is now getting those. When the iPhone comes out, do you want it for the status? You might. But it's the killer app that makes it something you just have to have right then and there. The killer app for Josh Allen was Stephon Diggs. The difference in Josh Allen from year 1 and 2 to year 3. And look, his own growth. This is not me backhanded complimenting Josh Allen. He earned this money. He worked hard for it, and he deserves it. But it didn't come alone. Stephon Diggs became that must-have app, the game changer, the one where, okay, now we can go purchase Josh Allen. Because Josh Allen with Halo is worth buying. Josh Allen with Super Mario Bros. 3 is worth buying. Josh Allen with Mario Kart 64 or WCW NWO World Tour, okay, now that's worth buying. Josh Allen with World of Warcraft, okay, now we're talking. That's what Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen. He gave the other guys on that team a chance to step down into their proper roles because Stephon Diggs was a bona fide number one wide receiver. And Josh Allen then flourished to the extent where he was not a borderline MVP candidate. He was a solid MVP candidate basically all year. And not only have the Bills committed to him, they've committed to him for over half a decade. This is about him being there long term. This is about shoring this up and not having to worry about it for a while. And it doesn't happen if Stephon Diggs does not leave Minnesota and go to Buffalo, I don't think. Not that they wouldn't have found somebody else, but you don't find Stephon Diggs growing on trees. Devontae Adams, Nuke Hopkins, Diggs, guys like that are worth their weight in gold. They help you win championships, but they also help quarterbacks get paid. Mahomes is great, but he's not alone. How many great quarterbacks have we seen that did this with subpar receiving talent? It never really happened. So, and I'm sure Josh Allen's fully aware of this. Again, I celebrate it. I celebrate anybody that gets theirs, that gets paid for doing what they're doing. I've said many times, professional athletes in America are our superheroes. Since superheroes of the variety that we read comic books about, play games about, or watch movies and television series about aren't real, athletes are the closest thing because they do things we can only dream of. Dunking over Frederick Weiss with Vince Carter, or some of the things Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers can do with a football, or Derrick Henry, who's basically the Incredible Hulk carrying a football in the NFL. The wizardry that you see of some of the great hockey players, the amazing hand-eye coordination of some of the greatest hitters in Major League Baseball, the precision, all of this stuff, the explosion of Simone Biles, what we saw Michael Phelps do for so long, the speed of Usain Bolt. They're superheroes, and they're paid because we are observers and we marvel at them. But Josh Allen probably is not in this situation, nor is he leading this show this morning, and most shows across the country today probably, had it not been for one acquisition by the Bills that struck it rich for them and allowed Josh Allen to strike oil as well. We knew in the offseason there were three guys that were going to get paid or decisions were going to be made on one way or the other. I don't think anybody doubted Josh Allen was going to get paid. I don't think anybody doubts Lamar Jackson is going to get paid. The third guy, Mayfield, we're going to talk about later on in the show. That one's a different case, I'm afraid. But last year, Josh Allen threw for over 4,500 yards, 37 passing touchdowns, made the championship game in the AFC, won the first division title since 95, helped that Tom Brady left, but even if Brady had been there, that Patriots team was dreadful in terms of talent last year. His completion percentage, 58.8. 2 years ago, went to 69.2 last year. Passer rating from 85.3 to 107.2. Made his first Pro Bowl. All of those numbers that I'm saying should have your eyes popping out of your head. No question about it. He was phenomenal. Tremendous. When you look at those numbers, they're eye-popping. But again, they don't come alone. It's a team game. Sometimes I think we forget that. Stephon Diggs had 127 catches for 1,535 yards, 8 touchdowns, averaged 12.1 a catch at 6 feet tall last year as wide receiver 1 for the Buffalo Bills. He was the key that unlocked Josh Allen. And once Josh Allen was unlocked, there was another key, and that one was to a Brinks truck that backed up in Buffalo and handed Josh Allen his future, his children's future, his grandchildren's future, and everything that goes along with it. No more important position in American team sports than NFL quarterback. They're the face of every franchise. They're the talking point on every television show, in every article, on every radio program. They're the ones. They're the celebrities. And behind those guys, find the successful teams in the NFL right now and the successful quarterbacks that don't have top-flight wide receiver talent. We could go through all the teams that made the playoffs last year. Anyone that you took seriously had that in common. had a top-flight wide receiver. So as Josh Allen gets paid, I don't even want to look at it as a referendum on what Josh Allen was coming out of college. And, of course, I did the whole, media needs to take an L on this thing because sometimes the smugness, it deserves its just desserts. But instead, I wanted to celebrate the wide receiver position because all these quarterbacks are getting paid because the dudes they're throwing to are special with a capital S. Never forget that. I guarantee you Josh Allen knows it and has probably already thanked his guy Diggs. And Stephon Diggs probably has a big smile on his face knowing, hey, man, I helped make that happen. Yeah, you did. You didn't just help it. You may have orchestrated it along with Brian Dable and Allen's own natural raw talent. But you took that natural raw talent and you gave it an outlet. And it was 1,500 yards worth of an outlet that led to a Pro Bowl season, an AFC championship game, and $258 million on Friday. Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. That is amazing because Discover's accepted at 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report limitations apply. From a good quarterback story to more problems in Indianapolis at the quarterback position, that's where we'll go next. Plus, we'll stay in the AFC South because Urban Meyer continues to do things that make you wonder if Jacksonville's front office is already starting to second guess the decision to hire him as head coach. All of that is next. I'm Jason Martin, and this is Fox Sports Radio.
Fox Sports Radio has the best sports talk lineup in the nation. Catch all of our shows at foxsportsradio.com. And within the iHeartRadio app, search FSR to listen live.
It's crazy how much we have to pay for outdated, impersonal healthcare, and even crazier that we all just accept it. It's time to face facts. Healthcare is backwards. Luckily, there's Forward, a new approach to primary care that's surprisingly personal and refreshingly straightforward. Forward never makes you feel like just another patient. Backed by top-rated doctors and the latest tech, Forward gives you access to personalized care whenever you need it. Using in-depth genetic analysis and real-time blood work, Forward's top-rated doctors provide you with in-depth insights to better understand your genetics, mental, and physical health. They then create custom, easy-to-understand plans to help guide you to achieving long-term health. With Forward, you get unlimited in-person visits with your doctor and access to care anytime via the Forward app, all for one flat monthly fee. It's time to stop accepting backwards healthcare and start moving your health forward. Visit GoForward.com today to learn more. That's GoForward.com.
After all that planning, it's happening. Your DIY closet renovation is finally becoming a reality. Question is, where do you put your things while you work? CubeSmart has you covered with month-to-month leases and self-storage solutions that make it easier to get organized. Online or in person, getting self-storage is convenient and fast. And because DIY renovations can easily go over budget, it's great that CubeSmart is offering up to 25% off your monthly rent. Say goodbye to before and hello to after with CubeSmart Self-Storage. Visit CubeSmart.com for more details.
What up? It's Dramos. You may know me from the recap on LATV. Now I've got my own podcast, Life as a Gringo, coming to you every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be talking real and unapologetic about all things life, Latin culture, and everything in between from someone who's never quite fit in. Listen to Life as a Gringo on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back. Jason Martin Show here on Fox Sports Radio with you until 6 a.m. Eastern Time. My name is Jason Martin. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm on Twitter at JMartRadio. That's where you can find me. So Josh Allen got paid. We talked a lot about that in the first segment. I do just want you to think about that as you watch these quarterbacks. Think about how often receivers get these guys paid. We see it a lot. And now we go from there to Indianapolis, where the Carson Wentz thing, last week we knew a little bit, and then we found out more. He's going to be out 5 to 12 weeks. Then Quentin Nelson weirdly has a similar issue. He's out 5 to 12 weeks, the great offensive lineman. 5 to 12, if they're not careful, would become 5 and 12 as a record for the Colts in a 17-game schedule. But it's more now, what do you do? Because Carson Wentz has only done this twice in terms of being able to play a full NFL season. We know his situation in the playoffs. There isn't one. We know his mental situation. It's fragile, or it was in Philadelphia, but it was Frank Reich that was going to save it, right? Well, now he's hurt again. He's hurt again, and he's been hurt throughout his career. I feel sorry for him in that regard. And all the talk is about Nick Foles, or that's where it's been. Yes, Phillip Rivers is discussed, and some other guys have been discussed. But Foles has probably been the one you've seen mentioned the most. Rivers probably second. I'm here to tell you, folks, you cannot, if you're Indianapolis, bring in Nick Foles unless you want to lose Carson Wentz forever. You can't do it. Because I am convinced, flawed though I may be, incorrect though I may be, from my own vantage point, that's really the only place that I can step from. It's the only place I can speak from. Carson Wentz was broken, like Humpty Dumpty falling off the wall, watching Nick Foles take that Philadelphia team that he had helmed so effectively before the injury against the Rams in L.A., watching him take that team to the Super Bowl. I remember when Carson Wentz went down, we were doing predictions in the morning on Fox Sports Radio, and I said, I don't care whoever's playing the Eagles, I got them. I was sure they were going to lose every round. I'm not so sure Carson Wentz didn't feel similarly. But then Foles galvanized them, and they kept playing well. And Foles played out of his mind. And then they got to the Super Bowl, and the unthinkable happened. The thing Russell Wilson couldn't do because of a bad call near the end zone. The thing Matt Ryan couldn't do because, good Lord, the play calling late in that game was atrocious for Atlanta that allowed that big comeback. Nick Foles did. He outdueled the GOAT. He beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. The Philly special. It became all Foles all the time. And I think something snapped inside the wiring of Carson Wentz. Johnny Five shut down. And Wentz was never the same. His body was betraying him. But I think inside the world of Carson Wentz's mind was a darkness. He couldn't believe it. Because when he saw Foles take those guys and win the Super Bowl, what's the only thing you can think? And this is just human nature. If I'm Carson Wentz and I'm believing my own hype, I come out of a small school. Some people think, what are you doing? Taking this guy this early? I have success in my second year. I'm an MVP candidate, and I go down. Feels like that's the end of the season for my team. And then it wasn't. So what do you think then if you're that person that felt so good about themselves? You start to question whether or not it was ever you to begin with. At least that's how I read it. That's how I look at human nature. Our flawed, in need of grace selves. In that situation, starting to question whether or not we're actually all that good because Nick Foles just did this. And he never came back from it. He gets his change of scenery. He goes back to a coach he's comfortable playing for, where he played his best football underneath that guy's tutelage, along with Doug Peterson in Philadelphia. He gets out of a toxic situation, he believes. He's grown from that. He's worked past that. Then he gets to Indianapolis, And almost as soon as camp starts, disaster. And then the first thing that everyone says is, go get Nick Foles. And then Nick Foles does a press conference in Chicago where he basically says, hey, Indy, come get me. I'm ready to come do it again. And I'm here to tell you that what I just laid out for you about the way I felt like this Carson Wentz thing may have gone, if I am right, how do you think that's going to go? Wentz feeling better. Smells a little bit better outside. Flowers are blooming. He's got a fresh start. Then it goes wrong. He's sneezing because of the pollen, and in comes the other guy. The same guy again to steal his girlfriend a second time. I feel like Nick Foles, a second time around, might finish Carson Wentz off in terms of being relevant ever again. I don't think he can handle it. And I did have somebody tell me, well, if that's the case, then you've made a mistake in bringing him in, because that can't be your mindset if you're an NFL organization. But if your quarterback's that fragile, you're in trouble. I agree. That's why I faded the Colts real fast as soon as they made this move, because I'm going to have to see it, ladies and gentlemen. If Carson Wentz was healthy, I still was going to have to see it. I heard he had one great day of camp right before all this went down and said, oh, he's turning heads. Now everybody's really excited about this move. And look, Super Bowls aren't won on August the 1st. They're not won on July the 29th. They're not won as of today on August the 7th. They're not won in the Hall of Fame game 16-3. They're not won next week when everybody's playing in the preseason. They're won in weeks 1 to 17 and then in the postseason. So if he had a great day, that's awesome. But I needed to see it on Sundays against actual guys wearing pads that had malice in their minds. I would not tempt that fate if I was Indianapolis. If you feel like you've got to go get a quarterback, which I do think that they should, I would go get Marcus Mariota. I would talk to the Raiders and see exactly what that would take, and that would be the move I would make. Mariota does know the division a little bit. He did show some nice flashes when he stepped in for Derek Carr. He's about as likable a guy as you could possibly want, and that's one thing Foles has going for him as well. Like, he's not going to make it easy for Carson Wentz to have a problem with him. But Mariota is capable. He's another injury risk guy, because that's been his MO throughout his career too. But if you paid one, you might as well go grab a second one for a 6th-round pick or whatever it is. Now, if the Raiders asked for too much, then you couldn't do it. And yeah, you'd certainly call Phillip Rivers and make him tell you no first before you do Mariota. The first choice should be Phillip Rivers, because he knows the offense. They almost beat Buffalo in the playoffs last year. He certainly proved he could still play. And when you see the comments where he's like, if somebody wanted me near the end of the season to make a run because there was an injury, I'm going to stay in shape. I'm going to stay ready to go. So I won't rule out coming back one more time. All right, as soon as I hear that, I'm placing a phone call from Indianapolis, and I'm saying, you want to run this thing one more time? At least have the guy on speed dial? We don't know. Maybe Carson Wentz is back week 2. But how confident do you feel, based on history, that Carson Wentz is still healthy and upright by the time you get to the end of the season, especially if Nelson is out for any kind of extended length of time? That O-line is great, but Nelson is the straw that stirs that drink. There are a lot of quarterbacks that you could bring in to bridge you back to Carson Wentz if indeed you believe he's going to be the guy and he's going to be back on the short end of that time frame. A lot of guys you can bring in. One guy you cannot bring in is Nick Foles, because, again, I'm pretty sure he's the one that poisoned the tree the first time. And by the tree, I just mean the mind of Carson Wentz. He comes there again, you might have lightning strike twice. And they did rebuild the clock tower once in Hill Valley but the lightning never struck a second time. It took inventing a time machine to go back and see it again the first time. And that's what the Colts are banking on. That's why they paid him. They believe that lightning wouldn't strike twice and that they can catch that lightning in a bottle and recreate what Carson Wentz was prior to the injury that sidelined him that led to Foles getting the opportunity in the first place. Let's go to Brian Finley for the first time, find out the latest in the world of sports, including Kevin Durant and gold medals.
That is right, Jason. Good to talk to you. Kevin Durant setting the record straight on where USA basketball stacks up against the rest of the world. Durant stamping out 29 points to power America by France 87-82 to take Olympic gold. Now afterwards, KD went on Instagram Live to shut down the pundits, the naysayers who perceived American basketball was on the decline next to other teams. Quote, talk about they catching up to us? Are you serious? This skill is unmatched. Close quote. American Nelly Korda is playing golf at an untouchable level, finishing first in women's golf in Tokyo. She's the first ever male or female to win a gold and a major in the same year. In baseball, the Angels ruined the Dodgers in 10 innings, 4-3. The Halos tacked on 2 runs in the bottom of the 10th. The eventual game winner, that 4th run, came after a fly ball skirted off the glove of Max Muncy as he was trying to track one down in the shallow part of the outfield, and it ended up scoring a run. The Diamondbacks unfurl 6 runs in the 4th to tackle the Padres 8-5. Starling Marte flings a 3-run home run to shepherd the A's past the Rangers 4-1 walk-off style in 11 innings. The Brewers kill the Giants vibe 2-1 in 10 innings as Rowdy Tellez socks the game-winning RBI. And I know, Jason, you're going to be staying up late to watch this. 7 a.m. on Saturday this weekend. Australia and Slovenia in men's basketball are going to battle it out for the bronze. I know we're all going to be watching that, unless we're not. But, Jason, you know there are a plethora of NBA players on that team on either one, so it could be fun for those NBA avid followers to see how those two teams will stack up with the plethora of guys on both sides.
You know me too well, Brian. Yeah. Or you know me not at all.
I know you are going to stay up late. You have a little baby, but hey, this is more important. Bronze medal basketball in the Olympics takes precedent among anything else.
You know what they say in Texas, Brian?
I don't know. My sister just moved there. What do they say?
El Paso. Hard pass. Hard pass on that.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Anything else going on, Fenley?
You know, that's about it right now. I do want to say how awesome it was for the Americans to get this done, because how many people counted them out? How many people thought that they were not going to go this far, and that, you know, Coach Popovich didn't know what he was doing. He had no control of the team, and he didn't know how to coach an Olympic contender. And now everybody that had that opinion runs back into their shell.
Yeah, I mean, they beat France by 5.
You know, but
that's my whole deal. It's like they beat them by 5. It's like, yeah, here's the problem for Team USA as I see it. It's the same thing as throwing out a first pitch. If you do it right, nobody cares. You never see it again. Maybe your family remembers it, but that's about it. But if you're Mariah Carey or the mayor of Cincinnati or Carl Lewis or 50 Cent, you're immortalized. Like, there's no reason to do it because there's no win. Like, Team USA goes and wins gold. It's just like, well, of course they did. If they lose, now we have something to talk about. Like, there's not even really a story here. There's no meat on this bone other than Kevin Durant might be the greatest Olympic basketball player of all time for the United States because of what he's done in multiple Olympics.
I will admit though, Jason, watching the fourth quarter, it looked like Team USA was sleepwalking a little bit. They got France to within 3, so it wasn't like they ever had this one down the stretch in their grasp. But Damian Lillard made some big plays down the stretch, and you saw what Jason Tatum was able to do. But Kevin Durant was money, hit those free throws, and it was cool to see them celebrate in the center of the court. And yeah, I know, like, it's expected that we're supposed to do this, but it almost feels different this year because so many counted out the Americans, or at least wanted to go with that narrative and run with that.
I think that second one is more accurate. I don't know if they counted them out as much as they found a narrative and went with it. And then, well, let's see what happens, because this could turn out to be right. If not, then we'll just move to another observation. Kevin Durant saying that they haven't caught up to America. Look, American basketball is still the best. We already know this, which is why they win the gold, and we're proud of them, and we're excited for them to represent the country. And they played hard, and they won, and congrats to Popovich, and congrats to all those players. But that's about all we got. Like, in terms of, am I really going to spend a ton of time talking about them winning the gold? No. It's just, it's a unique circumstance because they've been so good for so long. We don't care that they win. We just anticipate it. We only care if they lose. I know I'm not the first person to say that over the last probably hour across the country doing this for a living, but it's just the way it is. Like, I mean, Finley, you think about it. Like, when do you, at some point, you stop caring because they've won so much? It becomes a storyline when they don't win. Like, it's not, it became disinteresting when Serena Williams won. It became interesting when she lost a major at some point in time. Or if there was a tournament that Federer, Nadal, or Joker didn't win. Like, that became the storyline because everything else was just, we can talk about their greatness, but it's kind of boring to talk about greatness at that level after a certain point.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Rafa Nadal just got beat in the early rounds of an event this week that's happening in Washington, D.C., the City Open on the hardcourt surface, but don't you think that when you talk about disinteresting, when you see so many NBA guys on the American circuit here say they're not interested in playing in the Olympics, that is actually the bigger turnoff than just the Olympics happening as like, I feel like just seeing what America is doing when it comes to now it becoming, where did the pride come from? Like, everybody wanting to be a part of this, and now it's optional. And I know there are extenuating circumstances with COVID and all that stuff, but in a normal Olympic year, don't you think, Jason, that the best should always want to play in this game? And I think that's what I have the biggest problem with, more than where we stand and if we lose to another country, is why aren't the best always playing, and how do we get back to that sort of state?
Yeah, I know. I get that. Again, I think that part of it just comes down to the fact that NBA players care about winning the NBA championship. That's what they're paid for. That's what they're driven to do. That's where the best basketball is played, because it's everybody from every country. It's their best and all of the American homegrown talent all in one place at the same time. That's the apex of basketball. As great as the Olympics are, it's not really the apex of the sport. It's not like, I mean, track and field is the apex of the sport. Swimming, it's the apex of the sport. Basketball, it's an international tournament. But I don't think that it has the same level of prestige, especially now, as the NBA does. And so if you are asking me, and I'm an NBA star, if I go win one gold, that wouldn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But after that, it's, I need to worry about next season, especially with all the guys we just saw drop like flies in terms of injuries and all that. No, I need this time to rest up at some point in time. I want to represent my country. But my job is to represent the San Antonio Spurs or the Golden State Warriors or the Milwaukee Bucks or the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think that sometimes gets lost. It's like, oh, you should play for your country. Right, but this is actually what I am paid to do. This is actually the apex of my sport. So I think that's worthy of mention.
Yeah, I agree. If there's not the financial incentive, ultimately, it's going to be hard to get the guys going back for that second gold. I see that.
No, that's fair. When we come back, Urban Meyer, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? I'm Jason Martin, and this is Fox Sports Radio. Welcome back. I'm Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. That's amazing. Discover's accepted 99% of places in the U.S. to take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report limitations apply. Finishing up the first hour of 4 here this morning. Urban Meyer, what are you doing, man? Urban Meyer has created, and he's doing these win-loss drills. He's doing one-on-one drills, keeping track of winners and losers. And reportedly, these stats are going to be a major part of how he whittles down the roster to 53. Win more than you lose, you're going to have a better chance of making this team. Here's Urban Meyer. A big roster is going to go to a smaller roster. That's brilliant. And I think, to be fair to players, we all have so much respect, and this is the way guys make a living. I don't believe in subjectivity. I believe in what's your record. Every man's got a record. What is it? You are what your record is. If you lose a lot, but you have a lot of potential, that's not real good. Just over the course of my career, I can give you example after example of players who maybe they're a little slow, but they just never lose. Okay, so you're talking about Tebow in the NBA, in the NFL? Let me ask you this. So he did the winners and losers at Florida. Second season in 2006, according to ESPN. They beat Ohio State to win the national championship. He also did it at Ohio State. These one-on-ones, he's done this everywhere he's been. The problem is he's never been in the NFL. And these dudes that make more money than him are going to look at him and say, yeah, screw you, pal. And then there's this. I've attended Titans training camp multiple times in my time in Nashville. And I've talked to people that have been on teams, that have played for a long time, coached for a long time, been around this league for a long time. And there's something that I noticed very early because I was wondering, there were some dudes that just looked like absolute beasts in practice, but had nothing when they were put in for a play or two in an actual game. And I was like, what is this? And it turns out, and this is probably going to come as no shock to you, that some people are really good in practice but can't handle the test. Pretty good in class, but don't test well. Unfortunately, in football, testing is playing in the games. So there's dudes that you might really like that show out in practice, but just cannot get it done on the field when you actually turn the bright lights on. So if you're doing this in the pros, you're watching the wrong thing. Somebody might impress you in camp, and that's one thing. But win-loss records in camp mean nothing. Nothing irritates me more in sports than ex-quarterback was 12 for 13 today, throwing to other guys in shorts against air. Or he was 12 of 13 today against defense that were wearing shorts. I don't care about this stuff. No one's ever going to make me care about it. Doesn't mean that it's irrelevant or it's not necessary. It just means that those numbers are meaningless. And now you've got an NFL head coach that's coming in. He's going to say, you know what? Everybody's done it one way pretty much throughout the run of the National Football League. It's been a good run, but it's time to do it my way because daggone it, I won championships at Florida and Ohio State. And I was really good everywhere else that I've coached in college. And football is football no matter where you coach it. Except that it isn't. Some of these ideas that Urban has might be good. He's trying to do too many of them. It's looking increasingly like a slow motion plane crash. I have a bet with people here in Nashville that Tim Tebow will not make that roster. I'm starting to think I'm going to lose that bet. We'll be right back on Fox.
Fox Sports Radio has the best sports talk lineup in the nation. Catch all of our shows at foxsportsradio.com. And within the iHeartRadio app, search FSR to listen live.
Hey, this is Jason McIntyre. Join me every weekday morning on my podcast, Straight Fire with Jason McIntyre. This isn't your typical sports pod pushing the same tired narratives down your throat every day. Straight Fire gives you honest opinions on all the biggest sports headlines, accurate stats to help you win big at the sportsbook, and all the best guests. Do yourself a favor and listen to Straight Fire with Jason McIntyre on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Support for this podcast comes from Invesco QQQ. Allow us to introduce you to Tom, an ordinary person who helped shape the future by putting his money behind the right ideas. Tom enjoys tending to his tomato garden and is currently developing the perfect blend for his homemade spaghetti sauce. Tom is also accessing companies that help change the course of the aerospace industry by investing in Invesco QQQ. Invesco QQQ is a fund that allows you access to innovators of the NASDAQ 100, which goes to show you don't have to be a rocket scientist to help push progress forward. Become an agent of innovation. Learn more at Invesco.com/QQQ. There are risks involved with investing in ETFs, including possible loss of money. ETFs are subject to risks similar to those of stocks. Investments focused in the technology sector are subject to greater risk and are more greatly impacted by market volatility than more diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies traded on the NASDAQ. An investment cannot be made directly into an index. Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Call 800-983-0903 for a prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully before investing. Invesco Distributors, Inc.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Is that Shakespeare?
Nope, it's Geico.
Yeah, that's Shakespeare from one of his unpublished works. Oh, it be not for awakening. Nay, giveth thou the berries. For 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Nope, it's from Geico, because they help save people money.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but Geico got it from Shakespeare.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
To show you how easy it is to file a claim with Geico, we hired a soap opera star.
Gracious me, my car has storm damage and I've had to file a claim. Could it possibly get worse? Will my claims team leave me for someone else? Someone less intense?
No. Actually, when you file a claim with Geico, you get your own dedicated claims team who promises to stay with you throughout the process.
Oh, I've never known such loyalty. I can't wait for the second season.
Geico. Great service without all the drama.
What's happening? My name is Jason Martin. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm on Fox Sports Radio. 3 more hours of the Jason Martin Show. Here it is now officially Saturday across the United States, wherever you happen to be. Appreciate you being with me. I'm on Twitter at JMartRadio. You can find me there. The crew, Chris Perfett, Brian Finley, Nick Battaglia. They're the trifecta out in Los Angeles, spinning the dials for me radio style. Aaron Rodgers is back in the fold, but it was his comments about Brian Gutekunst when he was asked about it a couple of days ago that I found interesting. And I wanted to talk about that for a bit, as that story is still going to be interesting to watch all season long. Even though he's back, I've had multiple people tell me, colleagues and just others, are you sure that he wants to play? Like it almost comes across like he doesn't really. He's back, but how interested is it right now? How much interest is there in him playing football in his own mind, as opposed to just hanging out with Shailene in the mountains and doing his thing, watching Mayor of Easttown? I don't know that I fully agree with that, but I can tell you that what he said about Brian Gutekunst and their relationship is something that feels very calculated, because most things that Aaron Rodgers does appear that way. What he said, and the phrase that was taken, that you can just take from all of it, is it's a work in progress, meaning the relationship is. What he said was relationships aren't formed in a matter of a couple of days. He said this on Wednesday. There's time where the respect grows and the communication follows. I think the greatest relationships that you have with your friends and loved ones involves conversation and flow. You cannot talk to a close friend for a few months and pick up right where you left off. There's no break in communication. There's no forced conversations or you've got to hit this person up because it's on your to-do list that day. It's all about wanting to have those conversations and wanting to be in conversation like that. And we've had a couple conversations, and they've been positive conversations. But he's saying that, look, they have talked a little bit, and you've seen him actually at camp. He's been conversing with him out there on the field. But he's saying it's a work in progress. The relationship is a work in progress. What does that mean? If you're trying to find a reason to say that, what does it mean? A work in progress. What it means is Aaron Rodgers still would like to be playing football elsewhere. He could not make that happen. So now he has to get along to get out. He can't be belligerent. He can't be argumentative. He can only take little passive swipes here and there, and they have to be incredibly subtle, almost inside jokes, in order to have a relationship, not so he can finish his career in Green Bay necessarily, but so that he can dictate where he goes and that they will treat him well on the way out the door. He kind of has to play the game now. And I don't mean play the season, but that's true too. I mean, he has to play the game. He's got to play politics, but he's got to be smart. His power play, he already pulled his power play. And it got him some things. It got him Randall Cobb. And it got him a lot of attention before he showed up. And now we'll see what it's going to get him on the field this year. But his ultimate goal, you will never convince me, was not get me somewhere else. Because he doesn't like how they do business. He doesn't like the way they do contracts. He doesn't like the way that they've let some of his friends go. He doesn't like that they want him in that city, that small area in the offseason. He just doesn't like how they do business. I don't know if it's personal in terms of I can't stand Gutekunst as a human being, or if it's just I don't like the way you're running this team. And I feel the same way about ownership. I feel the same way about the team president. But I still believe he wanted out of there. I still believe he wanted to play somewhere else. He wasn't just trying to get Randall Cobb to come back and then he would be back in the fold in Green Bay. But once he couldn't make that happen, once he realized, look, they're not going to trade him, but now he's got them to concede that, okay, now they're going to take it into consideration. If he's still not happy after this year, the way it really reads is, okay, they'll move on. They'll move him on. Well, if he plays nice and he goes out there and plays hard, maybe he wins them a ring. Maybe then, I actually think if Aaron Rodgers wins a ring, that'll be the end of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is not playing until 45. Aaron Rodgers, if he gets the second Super Bowl, there's nothing left for him to accomplish other than to win 3, and it's just how hard would it have then been for him to win 2, considering the last time you saw him in a Super Bowl? If he wins 2, he's walking off stage left, and he's saying, thanks, tip your waiters. I'm out. But if he doesn't win, it's how he's conducted himself that's going to make whatever transition is next doable. If he's a jerk, then they can be jerks back. But if he goes and does his job, doesn't really drag the franchise anymore, says the right things, goes on with Kevin Clark of The Ringer and talks about Mayor of Easttown and The Office and Ricky Gervais and all this kind of stuff, which is what he's done this week, commented on everything else and been kind of the quirky side of Aaron Rodgers that we all sort of like when he's commenting on Game of Thrones and stuff like that. Like, he goes and he does some of that, and then outside of that, he just plays football, and he plays it at a high level. At the end of this season, if he's still not happy, or if Shailene would like to have him elsewhere and he's agreeable to that also, then maybe he actually can get what he wants. If he doesn't try the, attract flies with honey deal, then he may attract a boot in the keister. And that doesn't mean out the door, unless it's somewhere he didn't want to go, at which point you're forcing him to then either retire or come and grovel again. Aaron Rodgers has no more moves other than to stop playing. And that bluff was called, and he's back because he didn't want to give up that money. And because he knows what we all know, which is Green Bay outside of Tampa Bay, they're still probably the class of the NFC. The Rams are going to be good. The NFC West is loaded, but Green Bay still is probably I would say they have a second best shot. I thought they were the best team in football last year. They just lost to Tampa Bay in the NFC Championship game. So Rodgers knows he's got a good shot at a ring this year. And I do think his ego wants that second ring. There's no question about that. I don't think he's going to care about the third one because the only thing he would care about is getting to Brady, and that's not going to happen. That's why I think if he can just win multiples, he's cool being Peyton Manning in terms of the rings and walking off stage left. Worked out pretty well for Peyton Manning. Dude's still getting checks. And now he's got a gold jacket, and Aaron Rodgers is going to sleepwalk right into a gold jacket. He didn't even have to effort that thing. That'll be unanimous as unanimous gets. But if he, treats it right, especially if he treats Jordan Love right, if he works with him, if the team knows that he's doing right by the young quarterback, all of these are things that could help him in his quest to go somewhere else. And if he wanted to stay, it's not going to hurt him there either because it's just going to have kind of mended some fences. There are going to be some fans that are miffed, but those fans will get over it as soon as they remember how good he is when he throws one touchdown pass to Devontae Adams in the season opener. They'll get over it real fast. You can get away with an awful lot if you're as good as Aaron Rodgers is at what he does. If you're good enough, you can almost play above the law. To a degree. Now, I'm not talking about certain things. But there are some things where you can just skate by. You're probably not getting a speeding ticket. You're probably not getting stopped if you blow through a red light. You might even escape the DUI if you're as good at what you do as Aaron Rodgers is at what he does in the public sphere. But he accomplishes nothing being an ass now because he can't get out of there. And he's already come back. He can't get out of there right now. They still hold the cards. The only card he holds is, okay, I'm not playing anymore. I'm cashing out and taking whatever meager winnings that I have and heading to the house. I'm not actually going to finish this game. Teddy KGB, you can keep your money. You don't have to eat any more Oreos. As a gambler, he continually hoped, I still believe, he was hoping that the Packers would stop calling his bluff, but they didn't because they actually had the hand. They had the nuts. So now Rodgers has to put a smile on his face and be the other Aaron Rodgers. The one that's a little quirky and sort of irritating here and there, but is a superb football player and then is talking about other things that people like that aren't football that make him seem very relatable. And now you're hearing how much he respects Matt LaFleur and all these. Again, all of this, nothing Aaron Rodgers does isn't calculated. And I'm not saying that like he's Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. I'm saying he thinks through things. He's a very thoughtful guy. He doesn't just act. He acts after actual consideration. So he thought this through. He knows exactly the kind of questions that he was going to be asked the second that he came back and he was in front of microphones for an extended amount of time and people were going to have the opportunity to pepper him with questions. He knew what was coming. And so he has been able to sit there and figure out, okay, what do I want to accomplish and how best do I get to that goal? I mean, that's what we all do, right? When we do our assessments of the things that we have going on, it's like, all right, well, I need to get this done by this time. How do I get that done without affecting everything else in my life? How do I do it without displacing other people in my life? How do I do it to give me the most potential free time because I'd like to do something fun in addition to this? We all do it. Like, how can we be more efficient? How can we entertain? Can we find the maximum entertainment? You go to a theme park, right? and you plan out where you're going to go to make sure you hit everything that you want to, but also that you maximize your time. You don't go all the way across the park to the ride that you most want to go to first because it takes so much time when you know that you're going to get there if you make the circle around. Aaron Rodgers sees Space Mountain. He sees the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. He sees whatever it is at whatever theme park is in your head right now, that ride. He sees that, but he's not going there first because he knows he's going to get there. Or at least he's going to have a much better chance to get there if he just sticks on the circle. And the circle is go to camp, play for the Green Bay Packers, be pretty guarded in what you say about the organization. Just be sort of positive constantly. You can say work in progress. I don't think there's anything backhanded about that. I don't think there's anything subversive about that. It's just saying, look, everybody here knows that we haven't exactly been on the best terms, so I'm not going to treat you like idiots. It's going to be a work in progress, but we're trying. I'm trying. He's trying. You know, all of that kind of thing. That, to me, is the best course of action. If indeed his goal is still to get out of there, or if he just wants a better life for the next couple of years while he's playing football. I still think he doesn't want to play there long term, but he doesn't need to make that relationship more toxic, because the more toxic the relationship, the bigger the enemy becomes. The bigger the enemy, the more animosity is created, the less chance you're going to get what you want without a whole lot of extra effort. That's just my thinking on it. I could be wrong, but I just look at Aaron Rodgers as a different cat, a guy that doesn't fly off half-cocked, a guy that thinks through things, including the words that he speaks. When we come back, in San Francisco, after listening to Kyle Shanahan talk about Trey Lance, might be time for Jimmy G to put that house up for sale and find something he can rent, because I don't know that he needs to be owning property in that city much longer. We'll be right back. I'm Jason Martin, and this is Fox Sports Radio. Welcome back. I'm Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. The name of the show is The Jason Martin Show. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm on Twitter at JMartRadio. I'm glad to be with you. Jimmy Garoppolo. Did you hear John Lynch trying to sell Jimmy Garoppolo? I'm talking, this was timeshare level stuff here. Like, you couldn't get out of the meeting. Like, you thought you were going for a golf vacation, but you showed up and could not get out of the hotel because of the 12-hour sales presentation you had to sit through. Jimmy Garoppolo is playing the best football we've ever seen him play. He looks outstanding. Hey, folks, there's only one of them on the shelf. You can take them home right now for the low, low price of $19.95. And also get this slap chop and a ShamWow while you're at it. Trey Lance went number 3 in the NFL draft. We know Trey Lance is going to be starting in San Francisco. Not week 1, but sooner rather than later. At least that's the feeling, right? It wouldn't be week 1. I'm not saying it's going to be week 1. I am saying that when I hear Kyle Shanahan yesterday say, yeah, you know, we're going to give Trey Lance some reps with the ones. It's not a competition. We're just going to give him some reps with the ones. Right, Coach. Gotcha. It's not a competition. We just kind of want to see Trey compete. No. That one doesn't work. Hypothetically, we would like to see a version of Trey Lance that was a bit more aggressive, as you would in a one-on-one comp. Nope. That's not it. Cut. We're just saying we would be curious to see what Trey Lance could do with the same guys that Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, now we're pitting them against each other again. There's no real way to say this, is the point I'm making. You're giving him reps with the ones and then saying, I'm not saying there's a competition. You don't have to say it. This is the soft launch. This is for the early adopters. So, I'm a television and film critic, so I often get screeners. And a lot of them begin with a disclaimer. In addition to me going to jail if I were to let other people see them, it's stuff like, hey, the music, the credits, certain backgrounds could be changed. These are not final. The final editions won't be there until the one that you actually see when it releases to the public. Some of this could change. Now, I've never really known much to change, and certainly nothing major to change. At least none of the things that I have screened have been that way. But it's a soft launch. Like, the real launch is the premiere that everyone can see. The soft launch is the early one. We'll drop a few in a few markets, and we'll see how it does. And then we will unleash that beast across the country. That's kind of what we're seeing here. I never thought Trey Lance would start week 1 because Jimmy Garoppolo is certainly competent. He's a middle-of-the-road quarterback, but they have a good record when he plays, a bad record when he doesn't. He doesn't usually lose you games. He's just not particularly impressive. He's not a Patrick Mahomes type. He's not a tier 1 kind of quarterback. If you go back to the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Niners, the difference in that game was that Patrick Mahomes played on one of those teams and Jimmy Garoppolo played on the other one. And it came down to 2 third-down plays. One that Garoppolo couldn't make, which was, it felt like a drop in the bucket to Emmanuel Sanders for what would have been probably the game-winning touchdown. And he missed him by 1.5 yards or so. And then on the ensuing possession, on third down, Mahomes threw a strike down the left side to Tyreek Hill. And the Chiefs end up scoring and winning the game. It can sometimes be determined by just a couple of plays. It can sometimes be determined by that. But I felt like going into that Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was Harry Potter, and Jimmy Garoppolo, in that same classification where Patrick Mahomes is Harry Potter, Jimmy Garoppolo was Jimmy Garoppolo. He was fine. In fact, he was decent. He was even pretty good, but that was about it. So you got a pretty good quarterback. One that the team does play well around, but I will say that when you see the record where whatever it is, they're 26-4 when he plays and the record's awful when he doesn't. The other thing that tends to happen when he hasn't played is that half the rest of the team is out too. Like last year, yeah, he missed a lot of time. Kittle's out and Raheem Mostert is out and like multiple studs on offense are out. So you got at least one hand tied behind the back of the backup quarterback in those situations. So that wasn't going to help things out. But still, the record with Garoppolo in there is pretty impressive. But if you go spend the number 3 pick, and you go up, in fact, and everybody says it's Mac Jones, and you take Trey Lance, and then you hear about Trey Lance in camp and how Trey Lance looks, and then you hear Kyle Shanahan go out of his way to tell you it's not a competition, you know exactly one thing. Whether it is a stated competition or not, whether it's an open job week 1 or not, is irrelevant because it might be an open job come week 4 or certainly mid-season. And they might be fine, and what they could be doing here is setting the stage because they're still hoping maybe the Colts will go try the Carson Wentz experiment with another oft-injured guy in Garoppolo, but this time a guy that had won some playoff games and made it to a Super Bowl. Or another team might come calling that's not as sure about their quarterback spot, at which point Trey Lance is ready. Now, it's smart to give him a couple of reps with the ones. Famously, Hugh Jackson pretty much put a glass ceiling above Baker Mayfield and said, Tyrod is our guy, and didn't give Baker a chance, and you saw how that went. Hugh didn't finish that season. Baker started at quarterback before the end of that year. You wrote yourself into a corner and then couldn't get yourself out of it. In San Francisco, they're writing a smarter series than they originally wrote in Cleveland, the Hugh Jackson era. They brought in a better showrunner. You don't have to hand it to Trey Lance week one. The question is, how soon do you go to Trey Lance? And if you're giving him reps with the ones, that means he's got to have been pretty impressive with the twos. And considering he was the third pick in the draft, this is not the way it used to be, where you draft quarterbacks early, but you still don't see them for a couple of years because they're sitting behind veterans with talent. Garoppolo does have some talent. It could be a situation where Trey Lance, who the weirdest thing about Trey Lance is almost none of us have seen this guy play because he didn't play very much to begin with, much less the fact that we didn't watch a whole lot of North Dakota football. But he has not played very much in the last 3 years. But giving him reps, getting him prepared. Now when you're the third pick and you're a quarterback, the fans are kind of ready to see that ASAP. I mean, Cam probably knows that in New England. And maybe he's okay with it. But that baton is going to get passed to Mac Jones. And Mac didn't go quite as high as Trey Lance did he? But I mean, think how fast Josh Allen was in Buffalo. He didn't go quite that high either. Pretty close, but not quite. When you go top 5 and you're a quarterback, they're not anticipating you sitting. What was it I said off the top? Now that Josh Allen's got the bag, what is the discussion about the Bills? That the Bills will not win a Super Bowl now because they're not going to be able to pay other key positions because so much of their money is going to be tied up in Josh Allen. What was true before this season, if indeed you ascribe to that theory? He was on a rookie contract where you could pay through the nose elsewhere and have a loaded roster around him. What was the story for the Rams before they paid Jared Goff? Similar stuff. Then you had to start cutting a Roger Saffold. You had to start getting rid of a couple of guys that you would rather not have parted with because you couldn't afford to keep them because you had to pay the quarterback. So the rookie deal becomes so advantageous. San Francisco paid Garoppolo a ton of money that I bet you they regret. And that contract is prohibitive, no question. But there are teams in the league whose quarterback spot is not as good as it would be if they did go grab Jimmy G. I would say I would have rather had Jimmy G over Carson Wentz to begin with. Certainly some of the worst teams, and I mean, I'm talking about a playoff contender here with the Colts, especially with their running game, especially with their defense and their offensive line. They got a lot of things that you like outside of the quarterback position this year. But, I mean, certainly the bad teams in the league, Garoppolo could go win for. But there are even average teams like, am I sure that in Denver, Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater are as good as Jimmy Garoppolo? No, heck no, as a matter of fact. That's just one example. Like, there are other teams similar in that Denver boat where you can look at a lot of skill talent and can't find a quarterback and you're wondering. I mean, in Cleveland, they've got to make a decision about Baker Mayfield. Is Garoppolo potentially as good in Cleveland as Mayfield is? Potentially. We'll talk more about Mayfield later on in the show. But with Shanahan saying this is not a quarterback competition, it doesn't matter whether it's a competition. You're still watching one guy and you're watching the other one. And it's impossible not to then know which one of them looks better. And once you make that decision, once your mind says A over B or B over A, you know what you've done? You've created a competition. Because you've created a winner and a loser. You've created a better than and a less than. This is what you have to do if you're San Francisco. I just don't buy that it's not a competition. You don't have to have a giant banner saying competition. You don't have to give out ribbons. You don't have to give out trophies. There's a starting job hanging in the balance. And if you watch one guy and he just looks clearly better than the other one over a 3 or 4 week span, when your focus is entirely on one thing, your football team, what can that lead to? Well, it can lead to a quarterback change before a month is out, certainly before 2 months are out. Those stories that Trey Lance wouldn't play at all this coming season, I call that bull, folks. And I call this guy Brian. It's Brian Finley out in Los Angeles with the latest. What's going on, B?
Jason, as Team USA men's basketball just picked up a 4th straight gold medal, going on right now, our women's water polo team, Team USA, is going for the gold against Spain. It is 2-0 the Americans in the first quarter, so we'll keep an eye on that. As for men's basketball, yes, Team USA continues to set the world straight and letting everybody know that men's hoops in the U.S. is dominant above all else. Durant, 29 points, Kevin Durant that is, powers the Americans past France 87-82 to take Olympic gold. And afterwards, Rudy Gobert with France tweeted, quote, "Congratulations to USA Basketball for winning the gold. You guys earned it. Words cannot describe, though, how proud I am of my brothers and what we've accomplished as a group. We will be back stronger." Close quote. According to the Athletic, Team USA's Damian Lillard had an ab injury that he was dealing with throughout the course of the Olympics. He will need to get that checked out when he returns to the U.S. American Nelly Korda wins gold in women's golf. She's the first ever male or female to win a gold and a major in the same year. As for baseball, the Angels stifled the Dodgers 4-3 in 10 innings. Dodgers' Mookie Betts was yanked out of this game with right hip discomfort. The Dodgers have lost 11 straight extra inning affairs. The Diamondbacks come up with 6 runs in the 4th inning to horrify the Padres 8-5. The A's best the Rangers 4-1 thanks to a walk-off 3-run jack in the 11th inning. The Brewers get a 2-1 win over the Giants in 10 innings after Rowdy Tellez socks the game-winning RBI, and the Blue Jays able to peck away at the Red Sox.
Oh no,
12-4.
Not peck away. I wasn't paying close enough attention to your adjectives, Finley.
You like chip away?
No, peck away is fine. I mean, it was a bird. The reference works. I just, for some reason, that one opened my eyes. I was sitting with my eyes closed listening to the update. Then I heard peck away, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Now I remember who the update anchor is. Got it.
Oh, jeez. You scared me for a minute. I thought, like, I said something that I shouldn't have said because
No.
I will, as I send it back to you, Jason, I want you to know that you have, I know these Olympics are about to finish up. 3 more years, and we've got the Olympics in France, and they are introducing a new sport, and that is breakdancing.
Yeah.
I am putting it to you, Jason. You've got 3 years to polish off your breakdancing skills so that we see you in Paris in 2024. That is my objective, my mission for you, to see you pull that off.
We'll talk about it in 3 years. I don't know how much time I have to devote to it, but I guarantee you if I put 10,000 hours into it over the next 3 years, I'll make that breakdancing team.
By now, Jason, you've put in about 10,000 hours when it comes to your golf game, so I expect you to be making the tour here pretty soon.
Yeah, I've put in about 20 hours of golf lessons so far. I've probably gone to 20 sessions. And I played a couple of holes this week, and I'm excited about the future. I'm not sure I'm going to get to a major by 50, but my goal is to best Phil Mickelson and win one at like 52 to take him out of the record books.
Well, one day, what I foresee, Jason, is one day, and this is years and years down the road, but you will shoot below your age in 18 holes. And that is a compliment.
That would be amazing if that actually happens. I don't know that will happen, but I love the possibility. Yeah, breakdancing in France. All I was thinking about was I care more about the Ocho than I do the Tokyo right now. Like, the Olympics just have not done it for me this time around. I don't think I'm alone either. I've seen a lot of people saying this. I know the ratings have been down, the Peacock app not being able to find what you want and all this kind of stuff. For some reason, I just couldn't get into this time around. Like, I certainly respect all the effort, and I love to see U.S. win gold and everything else, but I barely watched any of it. But the Ocho, I'm sitting here watching cornhole last night. Mm-hmm. I'm watching, like, hallway speed walking and all this other kind of stuff. I can get down with some of that. But this whole Olympic thing, it seems a little passé for me right now.
Speaking of the Ocho, they had a Corgi race, and I don't know why I did not include my Corgi in the race, but that was part of the Ocho festivities, and that had to be the best of all of the events.
Did you just have one Corgi?
I have one, yeah. I've had them over the course of my life, 3 generations of them. I will never go throughout my life without one.
For some reason, I thought I'd seen some photo where there were like 3 or 4 dogs with you.
Those are my friends. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm a dog lover. I am. But
well, no, that's fair. I just thought maybe you owned a bunch of dogs. That's why I asked that question. One is certainly okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So, yeah, I did not see the Corgi event on the Ocho, but I watched more of the Ocho than I have the Tokyo. That's the big takeaway at this point in time. And I don't know if that's what NBC was hoping for.
I do know that you were hoping to squeeze in that line at some point in this show. And
I had it written down.
I know
barely
you did.
have notes. I don't really do notes and all that kind of thing. I just kind of sit down and start talking. But I did write down, I care more about the Ocho than I do the Tokyo.
Oh, I can tell. And I think our listeners can too.
I'm about to tweet it out, Fenley.
Let's do it.
Look, man, when you have A-plus material, you go with it. Sometimes you don't have to recycle. You can tell old jokes every once in a while again when you play the Apollo. That's all I'm saying. When we come back, I won't use that line again because there's no reason to. But watching the Hall of Fame game, something stuck out to me that I want to chat with you about when we come back. I'm Jason Martin, and this is Fox Sports Radio. Welcome back, Jason Martin Show here on Fox Sports Radio. My name is, I guess you probably know, it's Jason Martin. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee on Twitter at JMartRadio. Finishing up the second hour. Still 2 more to go here on the JMS this morning. So I noticed this watching a Hall of Fame game. No, not that there were over 20 guys that suited up at wide receiver at different times for the Dallas Cowboys, as ridiculous as that was. No, what I noticed was, and look, when you watch Friday and you see Justin Jefferson go down in practice, turns out not terribly serious, an AC joint or a sprained shoulder. Looks like he's going to be okay. He's day-to-day. But this is not what we want. We don't want Quentin Nelson missing time. We don't want Carson Wentz missing time. We don't want Cam Akers going down for the year with the ACL. We don't want any of this. Here's what I know. And don't really need any further confirmation on. Chase Claypool is a talented wide receiver in the National Football League. Chase Claypool is fast, he's got good hands, and he's got an incredibly bright future. Chase Claypool is going to help Pittsburgh win games they otherwise wouldn't win. Chase Claypool is going to be Ben Roethlisberger's best friend. Chase Claypool can play the game of football pretty well. These are things I feel very comfortable with saying. And don't believe that virtually anything that came out of my mouth over the last minute is disputed by anybody of any stripe. I don't care who you voted for in the last election, you probably realize Chase Claypool is decent at football. So if we can all agree upon that, then can we get him out of the Hall of Fame game a little bit sooner so that we don't risk getting him hurt in a fake football game that no one likes to play in because the turf is terrible? And we've seen guys get hurt. Chase Claypool doesn't need to be in the Hall of Fame game. Maybe you let him make a catch and then get him out of there. He was in there way too long, folks. There was no need whatsoever for him to have been in the game anywhere near as long as he actually was. Looking at his numbers, I mean, look, 3 catches, 62 yards, targeted 4 times. Why was he even in long enough to be targeted 4 times? Did he need that? Dallas's receivers, remember I told you how many of them there were? Let me name them for you real quick, okay? Malik Turner, Aaron Parker, Cedric Wilson, Sean McKeon, Brennan Eagles, Siwo Olonilua, Rico Dowdle, Dalton Schultz, Brandon Smith, Reggie Davis, Jaquan Hardy, Noah Brown, Simi Fehoko, Johnny Dixon, Jeremy Sprinkle, Osiris Mitchell, Nick Eubanks, and Brendan Knox. Know who I didn't mention right there? Oh, I don't know. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. I mean, they weren't in at all. Not at all. Pittsburgh's got Chase Claypool out here with the most yards in the Hall of Fame game. A game that they won 16-3, which means absolutely nothing. He lays out on one of these catches, makes a crazy play. But again, who disputes the fact that Chase Claypool is good at football? Who disputes the fact that he is going to be incredibly important to whatever success Pittsburgh is going to have this season in the National Football League? Given that as our conclusion, would it not then be more prudent to not have him in the game, potentially getting hurt, in one where the W and L means absolutely squat? I like Mike Tomlin a lot. I always have. I have a lot of respect for him. I don't get that at all. And I'm just mentioning him. I mean, you can look at other guys, and you'll see this in the preseason. Can we err on the side of caution and get the talent out of the game faster? Chase Claypool's not competing for a job. Some of these other guys are. They have to show what they've got. I get it. But Claypool, get the guy out of the game. Don't get him hurt. We'd like to see him a little bit more.
Fox Sports Radio has the best sports talk lineup in the nation. Catch all of our shows at foxsportsradio.com. And within the iHeartRadio app, search FSR to listen live.
Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change. Like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir?
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Summer is finally here, and it's time to get out and enjoy the water, hike, bike, run, and to be back with friends. But life with the hassles of contacts and glasses slows you down. The Eye Center is giving you a summer of freedom thanks to Eye LASIK with iDesign 2.0 from Dr. Boutros. LASIK at the Eye Center is even more affordable with huge savings and 0% financing. Join the thousands of people with clear vision thanks to Dr. Boutros, one of the top surgeons in Virginia with 5 locations. Schedule your free LASIK consultation at theeyecenter.com today.
T-Mobile gives you more ways than ever to get out there with America's largest 5G network and the epic iPhone 12 with 5G on us. Whether you're hitting the road,
check out this great 4K video. I even posted it with 5G way out here.
Or getting the team together. Right now, current and new customers get up to 4 iPhone 12s on us on our Max plan with eligible trade-ins. Only at T-Mobile.
Each phone on us via 24 credits plus tax for well-qualified buyers. If you cancel credit, stop, and balance on required finance agreements may be due. Contact us. See 5G coverage, access, and offer details at T-Mobile.com.
What's happening? Welcome back or welcome in. I'm Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. On Twitter at JMartRadio is where you can find me. Telephone number, if you ever want to chat with us, you can at 877-99 on Fox. That's a 996-6369. Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. That's amazing. Discover's accepted 99% of places in the U.S. to take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply. I'm going to try to do this differently than everything else that you've probably heard for the last few days, but who knows? It may sound the same. Let's see here. Carmelo Anthony is 37. LeBron is 36. Marc Gasol is 36. Trevor Ariza is 36. Dwight Howard is 35. Wayne Ellington's 33. Kent Bazemore is 32. Russell Westbrook also 32. Anthony Davis is 28. Kendrick Nunn, 26. Malik Monk, 23. So why did I just read a bunch of NBA players and their ages? Of course, you know they're all Lakers. The easy take is this is a super team. The easy take is this is the team to beat. And the other easy take is this was a super team 4 years ago. And the other easy take is this is not the team to beat. Because as usual, there's no nuance here. It's all or none. Let's be real about one thing. The Lakers had no shooters last year, and they went and got shooters. That's what they did. What has Wayne Ellington done since North Carolina? He shot the basketball. Now, Dwight Howard, that's a little different. Ariza, he shot and he's played defense. Kent Bazemore, similar. Russell Westbrook is a scorer. We discussed him in detail on this program a week ago. But with all of that said, there is one guy that this all centers around. And it's not Anthony Davis, who is really, he's the guy in his prime here. It's LeBron. The Lakers can win the championship with this team if LeBron James is 100% healthy. And if Anthony Davis is healthy. That's it. If those two guys are both fully healthy, chances are enough of the rest of the roster will be that they can win a championship. If those two guys aren't right, I don't care about the rest of this stuff. Carmelo had a pretty nice year last year. And the story of him going to go back and play, finally gets to play with LeBron. They've been wanting to do it basically since they entered the league together. It's only happened in the Olympics. They're great friends. Good for them. Like, that's cool. I hope it works out for him. But, I mean, Melo isn't going to be the thing that puts you over the top. He can be a piece. But all these other guys, right? Anthony, Marc Gasol, Ariza, Dwight Howard, Ellington, Bazemore, Davis, even Westbrook. Or I said Davis. I should have said Westbrook. Excuse me. But Monk and Nunn. Monk, of course, another guy. What did he do at Kentucky? He shot threes. What does he do now? He shoots threes. They're trying to fill the things that they struggled in last year. But are they now a faster team? No, because they're still going to be led by Anthony Davis and first and foremost still by LeBron James. And that's what determines whether or not they're a contender. The rest of this is real nice. Like, if it's either real nice or it's real not, depending on your side of the issue. I look at all that and I say, look, okay, they needed to do something, so they've overhauled the entire roster. If you were there last year, chances aren't great that you're there this year. Schroeder's going to find himself elsewhere also. But if LeBron and Anthony Davis are right, then they're going to be in the thick of it. They would have been last year. But the other thing about age is this. LeBron being 36 being kind of the key here. But a lot of these guys being north of 32 years old. Bodies break down. think about the Walinda-like bridge that you would have to cross over the Grand Canyon here, but it's rickety. Like, you don't feel good. It basically is a tightrope, a high wire. There could be major injury issues with this team. So they stockpiled and they got everybody that they could to come in on these veteran minimums or not paying them very much money to come chase a ring. Some because they wanted to play with LeBron, but some because they wanted to try to win a ring before their careers come to an end. But as you get older, you end up finding yourself on injured lists a lot more often. And that's the deal here. Like, is the talent there to potentially win a championship? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to? No, I don't. And that's just because if I had to bet on it, I wouldn't bet on the health of the guys I would need to bet on for the Lakers to win the championship. All has to go right for them to win. They're not young enough to be able to overcome the kinds of things that some of the younger players in the league have. Now, and you're seeing young studs out too. One thing I didn't realize is that Jamal Murray is going to miss much of next season because of the timing of his ACL. But they're saying 11-month timetable. He's probably not back at best until March. There was some speculation he may miss all of next season in Denver. But if you look at the rest of the West, Kawhi's going to be coming back from a terrible injury also. He's decided he's going to stick around with the Clippers or re-sign with them. Chris Paul's going to stay in Phoenix, but is Phoenix really going to be a threat next year? Only if the same thing happens last year or happens next year that happened last year, meaning injuries to other guys, to other teams. Utah will be in the thick of it again. Portland's going to be Portland again, whether Damian Lillard is there or not. And by that, I mean they're going to be there maybe, but it's not going to matter. And then you've got a few other squads that we could talk about. But the Lakers have a pretty daggone good shot. And when you look at this on paper, you just say, if they can stay healthy, but it's a big if. And that's why I don't look at this the way some did and immediately say, oh, this is the title favorite. I think the Nets are the title favorite. I think the Bucks, I would feel like the chances of them being healthy when they need to be healthy, I like them better than the Lakers. There's a lot of talent here, and it's really hard to separate name from current. Like, you see Carmelo, and you're like, good Lord, Carmelo's a Hall of Famer. And you look at some of these other guys, these are some of the great, Trevor Ariza, and what he's done throughout his career. Just a great role player in this league. And Dwight Howard's just a big superstar name. It's kind of a red flag name, but there it is. Westbrook, huge name, Hall of Famer. You see all this kind of stuff. But it's like, but what version of these players are you getting? Now, Westbrook, I still think you're right at the tail end of his prime. I don't think he's lost a step, but unfortunately, he still hasn't gained a shot. So you had to overcome that with some of these other moves. And you do have a couple of young guys here that you've acquired. With none, that was a nice move. And Malik Monk, he's a sharpshooter. That's his whole existence in the NBA. That's why he was valuable, because of what he could potentially do as a scorer. It's so hard to look at their roster and not be enamored with it and go all heart emoji eyes. But you have to separate yourself and remember it's 2021. It's not 2017. It's not 2015. It's not even 2019. It's 2021. Anthony Davis is hurt a lot. And the last time he got hurt, that cost the Lakers any chance. LeBron, finally, after being a warrior for so long and seemingly never being hurt, now, finally, as he's closer to 40 than he is 30, his body's played a whole lot of minutes in this league. We all know that. How confident are you that it's not going to break down? I think that's what it is. It's going to be really interesting to watch this. But we've seen LA do something like this before. The question is, does this work out, or is this Karl Malone and Gary Payton in Lakers uniforms? You've got stars that have not won championships elsewhere that are going to combine to form this Voltron, but we don't know whether or not it's going to work out as well as it did in the cartoons, do we? Because there's already a Voltron super team in the East with the Nets. And we still have a couple of big-time free agents that, or not free agents, but guys that would like to get out of potentially their current landing spots. You got a couple of other dudes shifting around. A few more moves that are going to be made, but a lot of the big stuff's already happened. Do I look at Lowry to Miami and think that's any kind of a big deal? Not really. Not really. Lowry's another guy. He's closer to the end of his career than the beginning. Luckily now he has a ring. He's got a championship under his belt because Kawhi played there. But when it was him and DeRozan, that wasn't working out. I don't think him and Jimmy Butler are carrying you to a championship. The Lakers have a chance. I'm not going to sit here and say they don't. They have a better chance now than they did 2 weeks ago before any of these moves were known or before any of them were happening. I can't look at the names and not be impressed, but then look at the ages and then, oh, yeah, that's right. That's the other shoe. There is a caveat here. But with all those names, with as impressive as it looks on paper, if we were looking at this 5 years ago and we think, oh, that team's going to go win the gold, the big thing is still the big thing. It's still LeBron's league. And it's still LeBron's team. But as he and the guy he originally brought there with him, convinced to come out there, and Anthony Davis, as they go, the Lakers go. The rest of this is cute and it's nice, but it's not going to win you anything because it really hasn't won any of these guys anything individually on their own. Now they're all coming together. It's going to be must watch because it's going to be one of two things. It's going to either really work or it's really not going to. And that's going to be exacerbated by a narrative that will emerge to say one of those two things in extremes. I don't know how the media will handle them just going 500. I look at it and I think it could go either way, which means I feel like it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. They probably will have a pretty good regular season, but they're going to be dealing with injuries all year. And for the coaching staff and the trainers, they're going to have to be so careful with these guys' minutes just to ensure that when the games count most, these guys are actually around for it. That they can actually contribute and not just by sitting on the bench applauding or jumping up and down for whatever backup is in the game that just made a play because he could actually stay on the floor and these guys were hurt. And I hope that's not true, but I just look at Father Time. Look, that phrase is not said a lot in sports for no reason. Father Time is undefeated. Age is undefeated. The Lakers are going to prove that out a lot because you want to talk about an old